Hello, I'm Larry Dixon, and this is another episode of Conversation with First Baptist Church. With me today is Shayla Ring. Shayla, it is a pleasure to have you here with us today.
I'm happy to join you, Larry.
Well, thank you. I have a few questions. The first question I've got for you, tell me about where you grew up and what life was like for a little girl.
So I was born in Portsmouth, Ohio, and that's because we lived in Lewis County, and Lewis County doesn't have a major hospital. So my mom was 17 when she had me, so she was still in high school, and so my grandmother was very involved in my life, and I shared this story at church. When my mom had me, she took me as a 17-year-old girl to church, and that's where my godparents came into my life. So I lived in Lewis County and Flemingsburg, and later we moved to Moorhead. But I really grew up, some of my fondest memories are on my godparents' farm, and spending time with my little brother who would come a few years later. And so I grew up in the area, and so when people ask me, where'd you grow up, where you're from, I say the area because I do have such sentimental memories of all of those places. And so life was interesting because families look all kinds of different ways, and I love the way that my family looks because with my godparents, I was able to have siblings. Their children are very much just my brother and sister, and so I grew up going to church with them and being involved in a Christian camp that is right over the hill from them, and I have just such special memories of that's home to me, and people are home to me. So that is kind of when I think about what life was like, it's a combination of the people that were a part of who I am and how I am and what I've grown into. So,
growing up as a little girl, what was your dream job, or did you have one?
So I didn't. My mom said that I wanted to be a lawyer because I argued all the time. I loved writing and I loved reading, and my godfather was an English professor, so I was around poetry. But really what I felt like called and compelled to do and to be was to be a mother. And so I knew that I wanted a career. I didn't know what that was, but I always knew that I wanted something that would allow me to have a family and to provide for that family. Sometimes I thought that that wasn't going to happen because I have some health issues, and I watched friends around me get married.
Well, you sort of touched on it. What's your career now? What do you do? I know you enjoy it.
I do. So what I am doing now is I am an academic counselor for the Upward Bound program. I was in Upward Bound as a high school student. So Upward Bound is an opportunity program. It was founded in the 1960s as an offshoot of the civil rights movement. Some people may or may not know that. And it is to provide educational opportunities with the end outcome of first generation, low income, high achieving, gifted students having the opportunity to get a bachelor's degree where they may not have those transitional skills or things or support systems there. And so that is at the base of what Upward Bound does. But Upward Bound is fantastic, and there are all kinds of other TRIO programs that that have a similar mission. And I could talk about that all day, so you should probably cut me off. You should probably cut me off before I continue.
Family meal, that traditional family meal when they came together and they talked and so forth. Did you have a traditional family meal?
Well, I don't have a traditional family. So a traditional family meal, no, but I have so I thought about this, and I have really strong food memories. The first thing is like pickles. Like everybody who knows me, I eat a lot of pickles. I like pickled things. Rose does too. And that's because whenever I was growing up, my godparents had them readily available. And he also made biscuits and gravy, and he made like dump biscuits, and they were always like thick and wonderful, and the gravy was, the gravy was just like the kind of gravy that like solves problems. My mama, she hosted all of our like holiday meals, and she taught me how to make corn pudding. And so corn pudding is something that I make for our holiday meals now that we host them as a family.
So if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Ireland. I would go to Ireland. I've always, so we have a little bit of Irish in us, but I've always just felt so compelled and drawn to Ireland. And I don't know if it's just the landscape, or if it's the music, or if it's the art, or if it's just that combination of everything. But I feel like there's like magic and like an ethereal quality to it. And here's a fun fact. Chris and I, my husband and I, had everything booked for a trip to Ireland. And then we found out that we were pregnant. And I said, we can still go. We'll still go. And we were getting closer and closer to the trip. I was 7 months pregnant when we were supposed to be gone to Ireland. And I was like, Chris, we can't do it. We just can't do it. I was like, I can't do it. And it was so sad.
But what brought you to Moorhead, Kentucky?
My grandmother moved here when I was little and lived here and worked at the university at the library after she went to college. And we lived in Flemingsburg, and my mom got a job at the Camden Carroll Library. And so we moved here, and that was a really big change for our family and a big hopeful point. We moved from an apartment to a house. I was turning 12, and it was around a year after my uncle had passed away in a car accident. So moving to Moorhead, and what brought us to Moorhead, is a really interesting thing for me. It's very meaningful because it came at an integral part of my childhood development. It came at and it changed our lives for a while because we weren't as isolated. There was opportunity. Really early on, I was like, this is where I'm going to be. I had no desire to leave. Home to me is like I mentioned earlier, the people.
Shayla, what hobbies do you have other than Rose?
I love photography. I like the process of just capturing moments, and I think that's why I'm drawn to photography. My godfather is a photographer, built a dark room in the basement of his home. I grew up around film and developing, so I have an interest in love and value to that. I try to embroider and to cross stitch. Cross stitch is too rigid for me. I used to do shows and act, and that was a hobby and a passion. They all overlap to me. I just love so many things.
Have you encountered Bigfoot or ghosts?
I think that we as humans have not enough knowledge to say that something does or doesn't exist.
My next question is, what brought you to First Baptist Church?
This is one of my favorite things to talk about. So when I was at the Moorhead News, and when I was actively participating in shows at the Moorhead Theater Guild, it's like God was kind of just leaving breadcrumbs of people, because I met you. I did a story on you, and Diana and JD and Drew were actively participating, and I met Doug Jones doing a story on him. And so I think about it, and I saw all of these people, and they all gathered in the same place, but they all represented this love and this openness and this acceptance and this, if you need something, I'll be there. kind of thing without any expectation or obligation from me. And I saw them doing the work, like the work of holding a community together and showing up in places people weren't and serving needs that were unmet. And it would take me a while to come all the way to and be a part of the community that is First Baptist. But that's where it started many years ago. And we came here and we were married here and we became members here, and our daughter was dedicated here, and we were able to be called to be deacons here, and that's really helped us sink further in our faith and in a different perspective. And I think that we are here when we are supposed to be here, and so that's what brought me here, and I dragged him along.
So, if you were stranded on a desert island, which character in the Bible would you want to be stranded with?
If I'm on a deserted island, I'm kind of already on that deserted island right now, right? Earth is our deserted island, so to speak. I want the women. I want the women from the Bible. I want Mary, and Mary the mother, and Mary Magdalene. I want Martha and her sister Mary, every single Mary. I want all the Marys. And I want Joanna, and I want the unnamed women, and I want Rachel and everything. I want the wives. I want all of them, because for me, they were doing the work. And I want, if I'm going to be stranded anywhere, I want somebody who's going to carry a load with me. I want somebody who's going to be able to see nothing and make it into something. And I want people who are going to quietly support me and then loudly rejoice. And that's what women do. And that's what women did in the Bible. And you see that with so many of the characters and characteristics of women in the Bible. Doing the work, setting the tables, praying into the night, dressing the dead, dressing the babies, showing up, doing the hard things, pulling it together. And I think if I'm gonna be deserted on an island, I don't want just one person.
Well, this has been a conversation with First Baptist Church. With me today has been Shayla Ring. Shayla, it has been an absolute pleasure, and I have learned so much about you today.